Are you camera shy? Maybe you have a fear of doing live video in front of an audience. This week, Jim and I will be discussing how to overcome your fear of doing live video or live streaming with Kevin Kolbe. Now, you might remember Kevin. If you don't, he was actually on an episode of Social Chatter that Jim and I were on. What was that, Jim? About a month ago, maybe, I think.
And right, it was episode 252.
Yes, and they can check that out at socialchefs.com/SC252. And the reason I say that is because, this was actually the first time I actually met Kevin. He is extremely knowledgeable about live video, but he also has the background to back it up. And that's the thing we're going to be talking with him today about, in addition to obviously how to overcome your fear of doing live video. We're going to talk with Kevin about his background, and we're also going to talk about ways to help you become more confident on camera. And one cool thing that I'm interested in hearing is how to stream as if there are 100,000 viewers watching. So isn't that right, Jim? When we go to stream, a lot of times we're doing this solo. We're in our office, we're at our desk by ourselves, wherever that is, right?
Oh yeah. And not to mention, there can be all kinds of distractions, because you're not in a closed-in set. And, and that's part of where Kevin comes from. I mean, Kevin has been with networks, he's a live streaming video. He wants to say specialist, but we're going to call him an expert. And I'm excited because he's from where I spent about 18 years of my life in North Carolina. He's in the Raleigh area. Beautiful place. Hopefully the storm wasn't too bad that recently passed through different parts of the country. But let's get him on and get things started.
Definitely. So, Kevin, thanks a lot for joining us again.
Hello?
Hey.
Hello?
We're over here.
Hello?
This thing on, right?
Are we going to wait till some other people get here? Don't you love that?
Oh, yeah. Every week, right?
Thanks for inviting me to your live stream and then ignoring me.
I will say this. I mean, a lot of people, they do exactly what you are just demonstrating, which is, they wait for people to show up to their stream.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a lonely place. You're just, it's wasting time, first of all. But at the same time, I mean, you need to train and teach people to arrive on time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's great having you on.
Thanks for having me back.
Oh, yeah. And this is a different show, so you'll be in a different place.
That's why I got a different shirt.
Yeah.
Always prepared. Always prepared.
So I know we want to talk to you about, overcoming your fear of doing live video.
Yeah.
But before we get started, Jem briefly alluded to your background, but can you tell viewers and listeners how you got started with live video? I mean, did you just, figure out, well, hey, live video is my passion, or were you also maybe operating in a similar field?
Well, I grew up listening to the radio and watching a lot of TV. Thankfully, my parents are still around, and thankfully they believed, hey, rather than go anywhere, let's just watch TV. That's not true. But I've always had this fascination with it. And so I actually got in radio years ago as a DJ before I ever got into television. And that immediately introduced me to the world of live. There is a transition to live streaming when, like right now, I'm looking at my camera lens, my monitor is under it. So it actually looks now like I'm looking down, right? But in a way, radio is that way. You turn the mic on and you talk as if there are people listening. Mm-hmm. What I found out is if you screw up royally, they'll let you know. That concert's not next week. Oh, okay, thank you. And then from there, I got into television, and to me, television was just the natural evolution. Radio is my first love because I started in it. Got back in it a couple of years ago, just doing some part-time stuff just to see if I still could, and enjoyed it. But when I got into TV, then you mixed in, the visual with the audio. And my first gig in TV for a few years, it was all produced. And then I got to work for a station. I think the first one the first was independent, and then the second one I think was a CBS affiliate, where you work with the news folks. And you're like live all the time. I mean, you don't even think about it. It's like, you need to go live at a moment's notice, and you just kind of got used to it. And so, I mean, I've been around it for so long, and my mother is the type personality that will talk to anybody anywhere, which as a child, I thought, what is wrong with you? Stop it. And now I realize that no, it allowed me, because I'm actually in a crowd. I'm not the most like, hey, let's go meet everybody. I'm like, I'll just kind of chill over here and act like I know people. But it allowed me to kind of like just be myself and come out and talk and not worry about it. And I think that plays into live just as much as produced, because if it happens, it's going to happen live. And if there's a mistake that can happen, I've probably made it live.
Well, and a lot of people, I mean, they look at live video. So live videos, live in the moment, but it's also produced in a way, if you think about it, because you have to plan out your shots. You have to plan out your scene, what camera view you're going to bring on. For example, when Jim and I started this, it was the two of us on screen. And then we transitioned to that, having the guest on, for example. So, there is an art of, there's practice involved.
Yeah.
It's not just, I'm going to go live on camera and everybody's going to show up and everybody wants to see me. You have to also give them a reason, I think, to see you as well, and then obviously transitions to like the information. That's the core, I think, of live video, is that whatever you're producing live, the information needs to be really good.
Yeah. And I mean, it's called run of show sometimes. It's called format and things like that. And I think there's the personal, I'm just going to do something fun, which I'll do occasionally with, our youngest son or something like that, because he has special needs. And occasionally we want to update people what's going on. And that's just like, hey, let's just do something fun. But then there's the more, hey, I've got something I want to present, whether it's around video marketing or your business or a nonprofit or something like that. And you need to really kind of think it out. How will that flow? And one of the mistakes I think people make, and it's interesting, is if they're doing produced video, over time, you kind of figure out a format. Doesn't mean you can't deviate from it. But then when they go to live, it's like, well, heck, I don't know what to do. Well, there's a format. Follow it. It may be longer. You may deviate. You may change it up. I mean, my live shows now don't look anything like they did a year ago, because I learned from mistakes and I don't like this, and may change a graphic up, may just ditch the open altogether and just get into it. People are asking questions I wasn't anticipating, but then, well, I can't talk to them because I have a format. No, maybe I need to engage with them because they're showing up.
Exactly.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Go ahead, Jim.
No, and I was going to say, Kevin, I think that's a great point. It's your show, right? It's your format. And I think it's interesting sometimes when you kind of listen to the masses, it's like, oh, well, you got to have a countdown timer and you got to do this and you got to do that. And I think it goes back to create the show that you are proud of, that you are comfortable with, and it's okay to change it. I mean, you may say this isn't working, right? It's that whole testing mentality.
Yeah. And it's funny. I'm glad you brought up countdown timers. Now, here's the thing. As much as I fought them, I've recently added one, but I kept it to a minute, and I may even still ditch it. But I think I see too many people getting so focused on, hey, where can I get a countdown timer? I need a countdown timer. Hey, how can I get a countdown? Can I make a countdown timer? In fact, I've got a video coming up pretty soon on my channel about how to make one, because I know people are looking for that, right? And it's like, dude or dudette, there's so much other stuff you need to be focused on right now. What are you going to talk about on your show? Oh, I don't know, but I need a timer. It's like, no, you don't. No, you want one because you've seen other people do it.
And here's the other thing, having a and I know we want to make sure we get back to the main topic, obviously, but having a slickly produced show doesn't matter if the content is not good or if you don't have people actually showing up. I'll tell you, I'm in the same boat you were, Kevin, when I started Social Chatter years and years ago. And what I did actually was I took note cards and I scripted out every single scene. And then I looked at it like, okay, and the stream might have been couple of hours. And I was like, okay, this is great, but oh, it's not moving the needle because nobody's going to watch for 3 hours. And the things that, so I listened, I looked at what I was doing, looked at the people I would chat with and whatnot. And then I moved, and adjusted things. And I didn't adjust everything at once. I added certain things. I tried to tighten things up. For example, I set a goal for myself and said, hey, you know what? This show is going to be 45 to 60 minutes. And I'm going to do my best to keep it to 45 to 60 minutes. And the first episode, maybe it's 3 hours. The next one, oh, maybe it's 2 hours. Yeah. You slowly whittle it down to where it is a very focused and very tightly run show. And it allows for all those other elements to happen.
Yeah. Well, and, and going back to the things that, I mean, you also need to find a groove that works for you, right? And the thing I've noticed about recently adding countdown timers is that, I mean, there's something that's just, there's that adrenaline rush when you hit live and you see it and it's live and it starts counting up, right? There's really no going back at that point. And I've accidentally gone live before too. And there's really no going back on that. But the thing is, what I'm starting to discover is I'm ready. I mean, I'm ready to go, and I launch the countdown and I wait. And I'm waiting. And even though it's only a minute, sometimes a minute seems like a long time.
Yeah.
And so then there's that whole psychological thing. This is what I think about too, is that the people that have shown up at 11 o'clock and they see this countdown. I mean, I just thought about this, but think about movie theaters, back when we could go. And the showtime was 7:15, and you get there and 7:15 rolls around and you get all the commercials and, don't bring out your phones. And then let's run some trailers. And then maybe about 7:40, they start the movie. And then I think it was in New York. This is only a few years ago. Theaters then started publishing the actual start time. So it'd be like 7:15 commercials and trailers, 7:42 movie starts. Which you got to think those advertisers just had to be so happy about that. But we've trained people that, eventually, okay. And so it's just, I probably will get away from the countdown timers. I tried it. Just get into the show, get into the content, have fun with it, be engaging, offer something that helps somebody, and just get off. Go on.
Okay, so before all of that, though, obviously, so what are some of the fears that people have about live video? Because, I know they can do all this stuff. They can, they put that countdown timer in. They can start the show and get going. But the key thing is they have to actually get get in front of for example, in front of their camera or their computer to actually go live. So, can you maybe share with viewers and listeners, some of the biggest fears that people have about live video?
I think by far the number one fear, and I hear it and I've seen it, is afraid of making a mistake. Because if I'm producing the video and you don't know that it took me 5 takes just to say my name, the easy things that we stumble over, that I'm live, then all of a sudden, if I butcher it, or I had a live show where instead of hitting my open, I hit the close. I just had to play with it. Hey guys. So at the end of it, I said, by the way, since you saw the close earlier, here's the open, goodbye. And I just rolled with it and had fun. And it's that fear of being vulnerable, I think, which I can't say. It's, somebody's going to see me that way, but that's really what intrigues me when people will, again, we talk about, having a script, but can get off script. That, somebody brings up a good point. I didn't think about that. I think that is by far the biggest stopper of people going live. That I'm just going to make a mistake, and I don't want to put myself out there, so I won't. And I always say it's just it robs the world of your gifts that you give people, so you can help them do something.
And I will say this also. So there's a couple of things here. If you compare, and I like the example you gave about you're robbing the world of your gifts, for example. So it's anybody who's a musician, for example, or, you see all these autobiographical films, for example, about a rap artist or somebody like that. that just put stuff out there, like put it out there, put it out there, put it out there, not seeing any return, for example. And the thing is, if they had never done that, they would not be where they're at. I'll use Eminem as an example for, Eminem. He had a very rough upbringing. The guy went on to win umpteen Grammys. I think he won an Oscar as well. And, for people that wonder, well, hey, why is somebody else so far ahead, for example, than I am? A lot of it just really comes down to mindset, and not being afraid to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
I also want to think of it like this. I mean, when we go meet, when we could meet in person, we don't get a practice. If I go meet you for the first time, I'm not like, hey, I mean, like, oh, I stumbled over my name. Big deal.
Yeah.
What do I do? Oh, hey, I laugh it off and I move on.
And so that's a great point, because I've seen people afraid to live stream. They don't have a problem like speaking at a conference in front of 1,000 people, and it's like you can see them. You can see the minute you've lost them. They don't care. They arrive late. And so there's that point. I think another thing that stops people is I've got to have all this big equipment and expensive gear. And if I don't have, when I get the right camera, then I'll start going live. And it's like, well, why don't you help me here? What camera is that is the right camera?
The $5,000 one that I can't afford.
The one I don't have. Yeah. Yeah. The one you've got that I don't have. Then I would go live.
If we had classified that as an item, what would you say? Would you call it equipment? Would you say, lack of equipment? What are you thinking?
Well, I mean, I think people think ultimately that it's okay. So I'll give you an example. I personally have never produced a video, and don't anticipate one, about do something like a pro. Because one, I think that is so intimidating. And right now, I think there's business owners that they're just trying to figure out how to talk about what they do just to keep going another month. They're not worried about trying to be a pro. Now, we know that there are things that you can do to make your live stream look better and your video look better or sound better or, light. We've all got lights and mics and good cameras. But I think it's that fear of like, well, I don't have the right thing, so therefore I can't do it. Or, somebody told me that, I've got to have a webcam and I just don't have the cash right now. And it's like, but if you've got like a built-in camera on your laptop and you've got something to say or sell or promote or passion or whatever, go live, use what you've got. And I think that just keeps people from just trying.
Definitely. And I would say this, I mean, I don't really like to look at viral videos and kind of add those as a comparison, but you have somebody that's filming, for example, a video and it goes viral. They're not setting up, let me get my expensive camera out, let me get the expensive audio. They're not doing any of that. They're capturing it, for example, with the phone that they have, and letting it do its thing. And the thing is that's making it move the needle there is that they have something that is relevant that people need to see or that people need to hear.
And I think to your point, Christian, one of the classics is Chewbacca Mom. I mean, who can't forget Chewbacca Mom? She's just filming herself on her cell phone. I think she was live on Facebook to her friends. And that thing literally it changed her life. That one video live, not thinking about, which I know we're going to talk about a little bit later here, being in front of not only 100,000 people, but millions of people, changed her life in a positive way. And so I think, you got to get over the whole, you can start with a phone, right? You don't need to go out and buy it. So I think we make that excuse, to Kevin's point of, I got to have all this stuff first. So I think we use it more as an excuse than anything else.
And comparison.
Exactly.
I think comparison is just it's a creativity killer. And I'll be honest, it's hard not to do. We've heard the term imposter syndrome and all that stuff. And I think anybody that does what we do, you go through those moments of like, man, you're feeling good, and then you see something else, and you're like, man, I'm not that good. But you don't have to be that good. You don't have to be that person. I remember speaking at a college once. I used to mentor. Actually, I still mentor a class a couple of times a year, a marketing class. And I said, how many people in here know Peter McKinnon? And they were like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I said, how many people know, I mean, not know, but, know of Casey Neistat? Yeah, yeah. And I said, here's the thing. We don't need another Casey Neistat. We've got, if you want to try and be Casey Neistat, I'll watch Casey Neistat. I'm not going to watch you. So just be you and don't worry about the next person. You can learn from people all day long.
Right.
But then it's like, well, I can't do this and I can't do that. And maybe you're not supposed to. Maybe you're not supposed to. Somebody may say they don't have the gift of gab. I do. Right. But you may have the gift of something else that I don't have.
And you also have to look at it. So for some of these people, for example, they have teams for the most part that are doing all of their work. So all they are is the personality on camera. They're not doing the editing. They might be doing some of the script writing, probably not. They're not doing any of the effects, any of the stuff that goes along, any of the filming, any of the sound. So they typically have all that stuff done by a team. And so that's the thing. I mean, it's to where, like, going back to your example earlier about people that want to, like being like a pro, for example. Why being like a pro? Why not be a pro at what you do? And that just means really looking, okay, so if somebody has a style or something that they do that you think, is what you want to do, produce your content to the best of your abilities and continue to level it up. Okay, so people are afraid of making mistakes. They don't have the right equipment. What's the third thing, by the way, that people fear that people have about being on live?
Well, I think it goes into the comparison. It's just that I'm not going to be as good as that person, which maybe is a fear thing, or they've got all this, or they've got all that, or maybe they've got a crew, maybe they've got that, and I don't have that, so therefore, since I don't stack up to that, I can't possibly do it. Or wow, they've been live streaming for a year. There's no reason I can get into it now, as if everybody has watched them. We forget that there's always, every day, there's new people coming to a platform. There's new people discovering something. There's new people who need something. And probably there's somebody somewhere who needs something that you have, something that you're wanting to help them with, but you got to put it out there, because if you don't, your competition will. And
I will say this, though, I'm going to touch base on the fact that people are comparing themselves to others. So for example, if they look and say, well, hey, somebody has a year of live streaming under their belt and someone else doesn't have that. So you guys know Colonel Sanders, right? Kentucky Fried Chicken. So he actually didn't start out being famous. So, he actually started, and the crazy thing was, let me see how old he was actually. He was pretty far into his life when he started Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Wow.
And so for people to be, saying, oh, like if you start like, oh, you need to start early, for example. Oh, I'm already past the age, for example. There's no age limit. There's no limitation on, well, hey, you have to be over 18, for example, to start doing live video. There's nothing that says, well, hey, once you pass 40, for example, oh, big deal. You can't do anything. Oh, you're not a kid. You can't do this. For example, look at Tony Hawk, for example. The guy is, started skateboarding. And what is he doing now? Like, he's transitioning in a way, but he still skates. And the thing is, so it's not like he hit a point where, oh, hey, I'm not going to skate anymore. He still contributes to the sport in a number of different ways. So, amazing. So, Jim, anything else you want to add here on this question?
No, I think those are all great. I think it kind of really, that comparing, I think in a sense, is the imposter syndrome. But I love what you bring up, because, as I have gotten older, I'll just say that I started later in this whole marketing thing than most people, because I had a previous career. But if I listen to, like you're saying, the pundits, like, oh, well, you can't start doing live video, you're too old.
Yeah.
If anything, live video allows us to do something because we're in control.
Yeah.
And so nobody can tell me what to do. It's a matter of me not letting the voices inside my head do that. And, I always like that term, right? The journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. Well, the journey to 100 or 200 live streams starts with the first one.
Yeah.
And I'm sure all of us would like to burn our first one, but it's good to know where we came from.
Yeah. I would just add that, and I hadn't thought about it until I think Christian was saying it, but social media, the internet, it's kind of leveled the playing field for anybody, so I love the idea that you're not too old now. There's an age, the age 13 with the legal and things like that. But, there's kids that can be on with their families and things like that. But, I mean, I worked in the world of television, and, you'd always do the research on the anchors. And then we know how Hollywood works with television shows and stuff like that. And, there is an age thing there where actors will get a little too old for a role. I don't know that we want to see a 90-year-old James Bond. I'm just thinking.
Yeah.
Could be wrong. But
by the way, yeah.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
But social media just changed all that. It just did, and with that. So like, yeah, if you're 80, start. If you're 14, start. I mean, you can do what you want to because it's there, and there's so many free ways to use it too.
Definitely. Right. So I was sorry for interrupting you there. I was actually surprised. So, okay, I found the age when Colonel Sanders started KFC. What do you guys think it was? So he was 9 years old.
63.
63.
I'll say 59.
59. He was 65 when he started KFC. Most people at 65 are on, the downward slope, even though there really is no downward slope. It's it's how you look at it, how you think about it.
Yeah.
So that's pretty amazing. I mean, so for example, so all the people that say, hey, I'm too old to start doing live streaming, you're not too old to start live streaming. For example, maybe the topic, you need to change the topic, but, to Jim's point as well. I mean, Jim said, hey, you got started in the marketing side later in your career because you had a career. So if you even wanted, you could pick up what you have been doing in your career, and that can be what you actually live stream about because you aren't knowledgeable about that subject. So, by the way, so why is it important, to be knowledgeable about the subject, you're going to be talking about, Kevin?
Well, let me throw this in, and I think that will answer it too. I actually think sometimes that folks that don't have the background in broadcasting may be just as good, because sometimes when you jump into something, you don't know what you don't know. I don't know about you, but I can't tell you how many times I've gone to Home Depot and bought something because I know I can fix that. And then I can't, I mean, we redid a kitchen once, and I decided I could do the plumbing under the sink, and I sketched it out, and I can't draw. And I got to the hardware store, and the guy's like, can I help you? I'm like, no, I know what I'm doing. So I just need one of these, and I need one of those that looks like it'll fit. I got home, and it leaked within about a day. Mm-hmm. But I tried, right? And then I learned some other stuff. And I think sometimes where people, Roger Wakefield, who is on YouTube and just went over, as of when we're taping this, it just went over 100,000 subscribers, and he goes live on LinkedIn and everything like that. He's a plumber. And I said to him the other day, I said, it's what I love is that people say, oh, he's just a plumber. How could that happen? And he goes, Kevin, I am just a plumber. He didn't come from a background of production. He knows plumbing. And so he used the tools and he used the resources in front of him to help people with that. And he'll share a story. You guys ought to have him on here sometime if you haven't. He'll share stories about other plumbers that hate on him all the time because you're giving away all the trade secrets. You're telling everybody what to do. He's like, really? They come to me now because they trust me, and I'm just a plumber. So I think that is it. So knowing the basics and things like that, like where to look. And things like that, but you can get so caught up with trying to know everything that you don't even start doing anything. And I think that's so dangerous, so dangerous.
Right. So staying on the topic here too of overcoming your fear, how do we learn to talk to the camera, Kevin? Because I think that's part of the challenge because we're alone. We tend to have these preconceived notions of where we should look. What's your advice to the listeners and viewers?
So it sounds so silly, simple, but I'm not a guru and I'm not an expert, despite what you said. I think the way you do it, the way you get over it, you do it. And one of the things that I've coached people to do is if they've never shot a video before, ever, or gone live, pull out their phone, shoot something, and post it. Don't look at it and keep it in their camera roll and show it to their family and then delete it. Because, it's not like you have to have proof, but until you put it out there, I mean, put live aside, put video aside. There's always something in our lives that if we never tried that first time, we've never ever done it. I mean, I can't tell you some of the things that if I hadn't have just tried it, you know, I wouldn't have ever known what it was like or learned from it. Riding a bike. Holy cow. I mean, just the simple things like driving a stick shift. My first car was a stick shift. I'd never driven a stick shift in my life. My closest friend said, "Hey, I'll help you." I didn't realize he was just going to have comic relief at my expense. He took me to the steepest hill around us going up, and the light hit red and it turns green, and he looks at me and goes, "Time to go." I choked out 3 times. I ran the light, but dadgummit, I drove a stick after that. So I tried it. I mean, you might as well try the things that scare you and find out why they scare you, why they intimidate you, and then realize, wait a minute, I may not be the best at it, but I'm good at it, and I can communicate that way.
And some people actually,
I may have gotten off on a tangent. I tend to do that.
No, not at all. I mean, sometimes people also find something they're actually really good at. So, for example, they've had this fear for the longest time of like being on camera, for example. And there is really no, I mean, big deal. Like, okay, so what's going to happen? What's the worst thing that could happen? The way we, psychological thing, we build this up in our minds that, hey, I'm going to go live and people are going to laugh at me, or they're going to, you know, do this, do that. Like they're going to basically dissect me.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you also have to build up that thick skin.
Yeah.
You know, but don't be afraid to do it. And the key thing is, in order to learn how to actually do it or to figure out what you're good at, for example, into places, you have to try. You have to put yourself out there.
Now, I think we do need to say though, and to be fair, that when you put yourself out there, you're taking a risk. And at some point, there's gonna be, you know, bad critique or hopefully not a lot of haters and bullying and things like that at all. But when you put yourself out there, you have to be willing to understand that not everybody's going to be enamored with you or like you or whatever. In one of the groups I was in, Facebook groups I was in the other day, there was a guy that I guess he has I don't know if he has a stuttering issue or a speech impediment or whatever. I've never seen his channel, but he mentioned that he's so self-conscious about doing it. He's afraid people are going to make fun of his voice. What should he do? And my advice was, if they do, make another video. Don't let them define you, because if they do, they win. They don't know who you are. They win. And it's like, you know, it just get on camera, try it, and do it. Worst case, you make America's Funniest Videos, and then you may make money. That's horrible advice. Cut that out. Don't.
And I'll say this: like when I started recording video tutorials, you know, those are pre-recorded, but at the same time, so if you're going to make a 5-minute video, it doesn't take 5 minutes typically, because then there's all the, hey, I filmed my lines to do this, to do that, and keep in mind, by the way, you could actually take some of that content, even though it's live, you could actually download it and publish like B-roll. So it actually could work to your advantage. You know, hey, I'm going to teach others as I get things going, but this is actually what I used to be like on camera, for example, when I got started. So, Jem, do we have other questions for Kevin?
Yeah, Kevin, you're bringing up some amazing points. And this may be where, too, the fear could be good or bad. Do you think it's better to stream live solo or with a guest?
Yes. So I do both and love both. I did a video podcast show for 3 years, 3 seasons, whatever, called Two Guys Talking About. Good buddy of mine. And, you know, there's something about feeding off somebody else like this. I've done bunch of interviews, just, I mean, throughout my career, but even more recently on my channel. And there's something about that. The flip side, though, is if you don't have somebody to co-host with, excuse me, or a guest or something like that, again, don't use that as an excuse. You know, good or bad, I'll let viewers and listeners decide. I I can fill a lot of time talking. Can I get off topic? Yes. I'm sorry. What do you say? Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, I can get off topic. But at the same time, I think it helps me. But yet, if I've got a co-host or an interview, I have to understand that the reason I'm bringing the person on the show, or the reason I've asked them on there, is not to show my expertise, is to let them shine. So that's why I said yes, is that if you can do a show with a co-host or a guest occasionally in an interview, do it. If you can't, but you've still got something you want to talk about, do it. And then maybe mix it up from time to time and see what works.
Love that.
Very good.
Love that.
So Jim, you want to take the next one as well?
Yeah. So building an audience is hard. So how can people overcome streaming to an empty room, so to speak?
Well, I like to think of it as, this sounds kind of sick, but, you go in not assuming anybody's going to show up. You hope people do. I mean, no, look, I'm not an idiot. Well, that's a different show. I was going to say I'm not crazy. That could be a different show. My point is, when I go in, I hope people are going to show up. I hope they're going to engage. I hope they're going to ask questions. But I go in not expecting anything, from anyone. They don't owe me anything, right? And when somebody shows up, when somebody watches a video, when somebody likes or comment, I'm excited. I'm excited. Now there's that thing you always hope it's more, but at the same time, so, you go into it as if there were like thousands watching, thousands. Because a lot of times people will be watching, they may just not want to comment. And a friend of mine used to get so wound up about that. And he was like, well, nobody's commenting, nobody's doing this. But we'd look at the analytics and it was a ton of views. And what I told him, I said, well, how many times do you watch something, and unless it just moves you in an extreme position one way or the other, never take the time to comment or say anything? And he was like, yeah, I didn't think about that. So I think you show up as if there's, a room full of people. You talk to a room full of people. I do think you have to make that one-on-one connection. But a lot of that is just looking right at the camera as if I'm looking at some person and talking. I personally don't buy into, you can't ever say, hey, you guys. You always have to say you. I don't think that matters one way or the other. I think your personality, lends to that. But I think you have to show up even if nobody else does, because the minute you stop doing that and they show up, you're done, because they're going to say, yeah, you're a faker. You're only here for the audience. You're only here for that. And who wants to follow that? I don't.
Yeah, I mean, so I think, for a lot of people, it can be very frustrating to show up to an empty room, but we talked about this a bit earlier, like you do need to develop that, really thick skin. So for example, if people do fun of you or give you a hard time, you need to just let that bounce off of you. And I would also say this, if you're doing a live video and let's say no one shows up, or you have 1 to 2 people. So here's the thing, you have to remember, for live video, the value is often in the replay. So, we're in a culture where previously, if a show was on at 6 p.m. at night, you would tune in. And then we got into the TiVo culture where people could record whenever they wanted to. And then that has become the norm to now where, okay, there's, people weren't showing up at 6 p.m. just because, that was when that show was on. They wanted to watch on their own time. So people might watch the replay. Yeah. They might watch on their own time. And, the point I'm trying to get across here is, as far as like you doing your show, like the key thing is you want to make sure that if people aren't showing up, it also means you may want to actually look at your business overall.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because a lot of people, if the needle's not moving, like, and I don't say like, do this once, do this maybe over the course of probably a few months. Hey, I'm going to commit to doing a live video, and I do a live video and get myself on camera and I get confident with it. If people are not showing up, I also then might want to look at it and say, are there things I'm not doing? For example, if I'm emailing my email list, telling them about the show and they're not showing up, there might be a problem there.
Yeah.
If, if I'm trying to go live and, and I've spent all this time building this show, like, again, if people are not, if they're not engaging with the content, well, then maybe I need to pull that out of them, maybe ask them a question, for example, during the show and whatnot. Jim, is there anything you want to add to this?
No, I think those are great points. And I think, I love the whole thing too, right? You gotta realize that I think it is in the replay view, right? Don't get hung up on the fact that people aren't showing up. And I love how at the beginning of this episode too, Kevin kind of gave that example of you're waiting for people to show up. Like, where are they? Where are they? And what you got to remember, it's like the short attention span theater. If you're sitting there waiting for people to show up, well, on the replay, if I come to your replay and you're sitting there waiting to get to your point, I may never get to where you did bring up your point. So you have to, it's kind of like that whole countdown timer problem. As soon as that countdown timer ends, you better be going at it, or I'm not going to forgive you and I'm not coming back.
Yeah. I mean, I have several friends that have been live streaming longer than me and things like that. And I think if you were to ask them, the number one thing they would tell you is just show up and be consistent. We know YouTube rewards consistency, but they don't define it. So, if I live stream a couple of weeks and like, well, I didn't get a lot of feedback, I'm not going to do that anymore. Well, then, I don't give a chance to find it. Going back to the TV world, it seemed like, and I worked for a Fox station for a long time. It seemed like sometimes there would be, we had a lot of great shows, but then sometimes we'd have shows that should have never come out. And then other ones that they just didn't give enough time. They got the overnights and it didn't perform well, and we'll give it one more week and then it's done. And I personally believe that over time, it wasn't just Fox, the networks trained viewers to think, well, do I want to get vested in this? Because it's probably just going to go away. And I think that's where streaming comes in. If there's like 8 episodes, 9 episodes, 10 episodes, I've got that complete season, as opposed to, we're launching a new show and then after 3 episodes, it's gone. I'm like, well, what the heck, and you train people, not to show up. You train people not to do stuff. But yeah, you've also got to be looking at your stuff. And, I did a live show the other day and I just didn't feel good about it when it was over. And I went back and looked and I thought, holy cow, it took me way too long to get into it. And so exactly thinking for the playback, I'm like, well, would I want to watch this and sit through that long to get to the point? Heck no. So you've got to kind of learn and try and not do the same thing all the time and think everybody's going to show up, but be willing to change, put yourself out there and adapt it. It could even be just a different day, a different time, a different format that works better, different platform.
Definitely. And Jim, you and I have talked about this very topic a lot about in the vein of podcasting. And it's the fact that, for example, podcasting, live video, sort of two different things, but people will publish a podcast and then they will put out a handful of shows and then they quit, for example. And, and the thing is, if you look at like the stats, there's not people that have tons of episodes out there. There's more people that have a handful of episodes because they just stopped doing it, for example, or they aren't willing to, let me actually listen to my show and let me see if there's things that I need to improve, for example, and let me actually be a critic of myself, a critic in the sense that, like, just being honest with myself. Hey, to your point, Kevin, that intro, it shouldn't be 5 minutes. It should be 30 seconds to a minute. I like to give people this example every time they're trying to produce any sort of show. First thing, you got to show up. But the other part to it is key is if you're not sure how to produce a show, for example, or how to build your show, everybody watches TV, right? Or you've watched someone else's show. Break down that person's show. Is the intro 30 seconds? Is it 5 minutes? Did you, for example, in watching that, did you actually get bored with that intro? Yeah. That actually might tell you something. Listen to your own gut, your own intuition. So, Jim, what other questions do we have for Kevin?
So we did want to know, what are some tips to help business owners learn how to live stream as if they were in front of 100,000 people? Because I think that's a phrase you like to talk about.
Well, I think you've got to be clear what your value proposition is, what you're selling, who your audience is. I mean, if you're, like right now, if you run a gym, I mean, who knows how long that's been going on? Well, it's like, how can I take that to online? I may have to adapt the way I might normally do it. Again, all I've got is my camera or my phone. I actually refer to my phone a lot as my camera too. Well, maybe I need to figure out how to shoot that so I can do it. So there's some mechanics of that, but you got to enjoy it too and be hungry. I mean, I'll go back to Roger Wakefield. I mean, watch any one of his videos. The dude is just having a good time. And he's just a plumber. So I think when business owners realize, I heard a stat the other day, I don't know if you guys have heard this, like as of right now, there's still only 62% of businesses that have a YouTube channel. Now, that's not saying that they're all using it the right way, but that's not a lot considering how many aren't even on there. And talk about what a great way to get in front of your customers, even locally, and talk about what you have to offer, how you can solve that problem, how you can be a friend, whether it's relationship advice or plumbing. So I would say how you get started is realizing that there's still never been a better time to get into video and live. And it will continue to grow. And I think this year has seen it explode, and I don't think it's going to slow down. So see how it can be an asset to your business as opposed to something that I just can't figure out, so I don't want to use it.
And I will say this also, in the vein of video. So in addition to, what are you selling, you also have to look at your industry. For example, if you're a plumber, people are always going online to learn how to do something. And part of the reason is, yes, they want to do it themselves. They want to feel empowered, I guess, in a way that they are capable of doing something, because, for example, let's talk about plumbing. To your point, when you were trying to install some plumbing, if you told yourself, oh, I can't do this, I'm not a professional, for example, I'm not, I didn't go to, I don't even know if there's school for plumbing. I didn't get the certification for plumbing. You're basically shorting yourself before you even get started. And so it's the same exact thing. I mean, I've watched, for example, there's been times where I need to fix something. I'm going to use the plumbing example here. There are times when I needed to fix something in my house and I didn't really know what I was doing, but I went on YouTube first and I didn't care how good the quality was of the video. Oh, is it green, for example? Oh, is the audio hard to hear? Because half the time somebody doing it on a very low quality phone, for example, it didn't bother me because I was after the information. So if I'm a business right now, I need to look at my business and say, are there things that could translate perfectly for YouTube, for example? And if there's somebody doing it, great. If there's not, I now have an area that I can focus on to give me some practice.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we all know Sean Cannell and he'll say all day long, done is better than perfect. And somebody even added that the other day, that perfection is like the absolute killer of trying to get anything out and done. And he's right. And audio is really even the most important thing of video. And people forget that. If they can't hear you, they're probably going to keep looking. But they'll put up with some really crappy video if they can get to what they need. And so, it'd be better just to put it out there and learn as you go, to get out there, to help your business, to help your family, to help your community, rather than keep waiting for it to be perfect.
So so that whole 100,000 people thing, for example, a lot of people, I want to compare it to like stage fright. Maybe people think like, oh, there's all these people out there, but are there any tricks that you use, when you're going live, for example, to, let's see, in a way to like build yourself, I don't want to say build yourself up for like artificially, but to build yourself up to where you feel confident and you're going to own that camera and that stage?
Well, I drink heavily. No, I'm just joking. Well, there is one little thing I do, again, and this is more of my produced shows, not just the one-off with my, son or kids or whatever. I do a quick run through and record it. And a lot of that is just to see, do I have the right buttons, and do I have the thought in my head and stuff like that? Just does everything work? Doesn't mean something can't go wrong. But I kind of do that. I don't know. I mean, that's a great question. I think for me, I'm a people person. I love it. I love video. I love going live. There's an energy there that you just don't, and I do probably a ton more produced video, but there's different energy, totally different energy. I mean, even when radio and I was doing overnights, there's something about just turning that mic on and being in that moment and enjoying it. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if this is a compliment. I've had people say, you're always on, or I guess the real one is they look at my wife and goes, he like that all the time at home? And she's like, yeah, pretty much, I mean, I just wake up ready to go and I crash hard at late night.
Love it.
You think it's bringing energy. I mean, it's being prepared, for example, it's knowing material.
Yes.
So, if you tell yourself you're not an expert, for example, you tell yourself, oh, I'm scared of being on camera, you're going to be afraid of being on camera.
Yeah.
And that's not going to change until and I don't want to turn this into a psychological thing, but you need to tell yourself, build yourself up, like maintain that, that bulletproof armor, for example. No one's going to make fun of you. Nothing's going to, the world's not going to end because you did a live video, for example, and it didn't turn out great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So bring energy. Jem, is there anything you want to add? Because I know you are really big about, we talk a lot about the, get better at least 1% every single day. I mean, anything else you want to add on that as well?
Well, no, I think it is. It's practice. It's practice. If you're not good at something, join, as an example, Toastmasters is a great organization to help you with your public speaking, because everyone is there to help you get a little bit better, right? By getting a little bit better. Love like the fact that Kevin does these videos ahead of time to just say, does everything work? And I think that's a great thing, right? Because nothing is worse than like showing up to go live and all of a sudden, well, this didn't work the way I thought it would. Well, why didn't you test it?
Yeah.
Testing is so important.
Yeah. And, let me throw this out too. And it's a real world practical thing. A long time ago in another state far, far away, I thought, hey, I'm going to play golf, because I had some friends play, not the putt-putt. I was pretty good at putt-putt. So I go out and I buy clubs, and I've never played golf in my life. And I went from, wow, you're really not good, to quickly, dude, you suck. And guess what? People would say, you want to take lessons? No, I'll figure it out. Well, again, I think you have to keep trying some things, but it's like, I never put anything into it. And I finally just was so bad, I sold it and I quit. And it's like, if you don't keep trying and you don't learn some things along the way, maybe take some classes, or like you mentioned, the Toastmasters, or ask people to review it, not your family. They'll always love you. Somebody that doesn't know you, maybe get some books and things like that, and see what you can improve on while remaining yourself in there. But I was just dumb and arrogant. I was going to figure out golf on my own. And it was the only sport to this day I've quit in the middle of the sport. I think it was the 12th green when the club I threw went further than the ball I hit. Never played since.
But, to your point, by the way, I mean, if you're not comfortable, for example, being on camera, and you've got a fear of being on camera, go, for example, check out Toastmasters. Jem, is there cost for people to take Toastmasters? And we're not plugging things, just because,
it's a very, very low cost to join a club, but you can also visit for free. There's other programs out there that you can download, to Kevin's point. And I think even just getting that evaluation from, people that you trust, that way we stay away from the friends and family, because I think that's a great point, Kevin. I mean, I always kind of laugh when you think about American Idol, with some of those people that get booted off, that their family thought they were great, but nobody else did. So I think that's something to remember. And but yeah, just practice, and then don't forget, one of the reasons that we launched this podcast is that we want to help people get better at live video. We've got, ourselves, and we have resources as well to help people with, because this is something that's not going away. To Kevin's point earlier, more people are going to enter this space. And, I don't know that there's a lot of podcasts about live streaming. That's why we started. So Kevin, what's a great way for people to connect with you?
My website is probably one of the best places. It's kevinkolbe.com. I'm also on YouTube and on Facebook, Kevin Kolbe Media. I'm on Twitter a little, but those are the best places. And they can send me a message or DM me or something like that. And love to connect with folks and see if we can work together and help each other.
Well, awesome. And so we want to thank everyone for joining us for episode 28 of Launch Your Live. And this is where we discussed overcoming your fear of live video. And we look forward to you guys catching us on the next episode. And please make sure to follow us here, not only on YouTube, but subscribe to us on your favorite podcast channel. And we would love for you to leave us a review. Thanks, everyone. And thanks, Kevin.
See ya. Thanks for having me on.
And at some point, he'll come back on.
Christian, I have had it with him. Long-haired freak blabbing on.
I
apologize for getting too long-winded on those.
Oh, this is great. I enjoyed it. I need to, if you're up for it, I definitely I'd like to get you on the Tim and Jim show as well. We'll send you a.
Dude, I am up for being a guest on anything, because half the time my show is just me.
Yeah.
Not by design. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. I'll send you a link for that.
I'm giddy about that. Love to.
Oh, awesome.
Because you know what? It's also practice for me.
Right. Well, that's why. Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Like it's interesting, like right now, right? Because you're the guest, so you get to talk more, but it's also nice sometimes to have it flipped where you get to be the actual, person getting asked the questions.
I don't have to touch any buttons. I can watch you guys do it. So I learn from you. It just, so, and that might be something you guys talk about at some future show, is just being guests on shows and things like that. Oh yeah,
that's a good topic. How to be a guest. You know what? I'm gonna write that down.
That could also be a way, and I just thought about this for business. Look for opportunities to present your business other than the chamber breakfast where you get 30 seconds when you first join.
Right. Well, we've even that actually brings. So it's interesting because I especially with your radio background, I know how much you've done with the podcast thing, but it's interesting. There's all these podcast directories, but there's no live streaming directory.
That's true. Yeah.
And it'd almost be like the giant TV guide. And I guess people could like rate and review, like, don't watch this one. It's horrible. It's horrible. You don't want to see that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm the podcast guy you were referring to that there's like, I don't know, 8 episodes. I've never put that much time into it. I think in the year and a half, 2 years I launched it, I've changed the name of it 3 times. And I love the whole podcast concept, and I keep telling my wife it's something I want to do, but I just feel like, there's enough other stuff I'm working on.
It's a lot. It is. It's a lot. It's funny. In some aspects, I think podcasting is hard work because you got to record it. You got to do all this other stuff. We're live streaming, even like we did today, and hopefully Christian's going to come back at some point to stop the live stream. You're live and you're done, and you could literally just go on to your next thing. And I think that it can also be a problem.
Yeah.
Because, people are, taking a look at from the perspective of, oh, well, I went live. It's like, but what is your strategy? How are you promoting it? And it was interesting. I just had a guy on the Tim and Jim show last week, a friend of mine, and we were talking about, he's a big podcast editor guy. There's only 40% of podcasts, all the podcasts that have ever been created have more than 10 episodes.
Wow.
And out of that, less than 50% of them are considered active, meaning they've done a podcast in the last 90 days. even with YouTube, there's only 16,000 channels that have more than 1 million subscribers.
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't know that it was that few. I think that's the one that everybody gets all excited about. You know, I'm going to be that million, you know, and then when you see it, I didn't realize that. You realize how small. I mean, you know, my channel is still very small comparing to most, and I'm still amazed when anybody subscribes or comments or something like that. And
we were so excited to get over 100 so we could actually, with the Tim and Jim show, that we could actually make it the Tim and Jim show and not YouTube/gobbledygook.
Yeah. A buddy of mine I finally convinced him to get on YouTube, and then he was like, ooh, yeah. So he couldn't wait to get to 100 so he could name it. And that's the thing too, is like, sometimes it's just, you forget it's like, it's a business, but at the same time, it needs to be fun.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the reasons I eventually got out of radios, because it wasn't the first time. It got to be just, you know, play these 3 songs, read this card, play these 2 songs, read this card. It's like, wow, it's not fun. And we couldn't have any guests on. It was just, you know, and I thought, the heck with this, I'm out of here.
Right. This is too funny. This is the beauty of live video, right? We're still live because Christian's running the show and something happened on his end. Hopefully he can come back. I wonder if he's if he's trying to contact me through Facebook. I hope his internet didn't like go on him. Right, that's the other beauty of Facebook.
I did notice a couple of times it kind of went out.
His power went out.
Oh.
Okay, let me try something while we're on here. I don't know if it'll let me do it from, because I can get into the YouTube channel and see if it'll let me stop it if I go into YouTube. Switch accounts.
Oh, I see what you mean. You can't even stop it.
Yeah, because he's got it on his end.
And if you close it out, it won't.
It'll still keep playing, right? Let's see here. Okay, come on. Where are you? I don't know that I can. Yeah, because I don't know if we leave this studio if it'll stop. Because I don't know if StreamYard will disconnect. You know. Let me see here. Video.
I know when I've used it, I always will do the end.
Oh, here we go. I found us. Let me see if I can do something in here. Says we're live. Settings.
By the way, while you're trying to figure that out, the other thing I've got on my Canon is 16 millimeter.
Oh, nice.
The Sigma. So it gives me that nice, because my office is not that big at all.
Right. No,
I just moved it actually over the weekend. I had it to the side. The last time we interviewed, it was to the side, and now I've got it on this it's called a Manfrotto Magic Arm or something.
Right.
So it ain't going anywhere, and it's just barely shooting over the top of the computer.
Right. Let's see. I'm going to tell him.
Because I ain't got no height. So
let's see. I can't. Oh, let me try this.
So are you okay if I drop out?
Oh, no, that's fine. No, absolutely. Yeah.
So we're done, right?
Yeah, we're done. Absolutely. Thanks a lot. And I'll send you the link to get on to our show. It'll probably be October, November, because I've been good. Awesome. I appreciate it, Kevin.
That's fine. I mean, September's our little boy's having surgery, and there's a lot of things going on. So October, November would be perfect.
Awesome. Well, thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right. Yep. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Bye.
All right. Bye.